what brought me onto this journey of healing really was recognizing that the human systems are not in sync with nature, and realizing like there's a massive problem in that, because the natural system is what allows us to exist.
Welcome to the podcast for life. My name is Julia Talg, and yeah, this episode I had a beautiful conversation with one of my mentors, Salvatore Gencarelle. And yeah, I'm quite grateful for what he's doing, what he's bringing for life, how he is supporting life through what he's doing. And yeah, in and through this conversation, I feel a deeper layer again, opened up in a way to understand the linkage between how we as human beings relate to the rest of life, and what we as human beings are able to bring as a medicine, and how we can be so nourishing for life. Into it, what does it mean? No, what fuels cultural repair, or maybe to say what fuels cultural healing? How can we be a medicine? How can I be a medicine for life, nourishing life? And I just felt that in this perspective, which Sal brings in from an indigenous perspective, but quite linked to the modern sciences, actually, what they also reveal, to see, okay, it's not just nice to do that, it's not just a nice thing to do that. And what I'm talking about, the doing, the doing is the attitude, how we are approaching life, how our view is on life, how we interact with life, actually. And one bit I want to mention already, because I feel this episode goes deeper into that in our conversation. And it's a thing that I didn't see so clearly before. Like it's not so common to see it, I guess, in that sense, that gratitude and being grateful and sharing gratitude and appreciation is not just about, it's good to do that because I'm feeling better. Of course, it also is, like, in a way, like I'm feeling better because it opens something within me, and I'm then feeling more, it's an opener in a way, like, okay, I'm opening again for that, even though maybe it's challenging to feel grateful in certain moments or at certain times. It's still, at least it's my experience to see, okay, it shifts something. And I'm feeling in a way that things are changing in a direction of more connection or connectedness. This is for me one layer, but the other one is also, it is about ownership and taking ownership for something, or at least also to see it brings me into a different state and in a different position of not being in a way a victim of circumstances, or a victim in a way like I'm not able to change anything. In effect, I'm able to change everything in a deeper sense. No, you know what I mean? So it's really this thing of, okay, I'm able to change something through my gratitude, through my attitude of gratitude, and through really holding it also in a deeper sense, like a prayer. It's a prayer to to express gratitude. And maybe that sounds for you, or could sound like, okay, that's a crazy thing. It's so spiritual. And so maybe prayer, you just connect to other things. And I just invite you to, yeah, to change or to be open for changing the perspective on it. Because I know a lot of us have connotations with certain words that could just close it for to say, ah, no, I don't want to relate to that anymore. I left that behind, and I know that also from my own life with certain things. And I just want to invite you for this moment, and maybe while listening to this episode, to see, ah, okay, there is something in it, and to just, yeah, go in with your curiosity to listen to the words, and to, yeah, let yourself be touched by that in a deeper sense, to just go there with a curious heart. And yeah, so I invite you just for this journey of going deeper into to that, okay, what really fuels cultural repair? It's maybe also a question that you're having, carrying, maybe in a different wording for that, but at least from my perspective, we all have in certain ways a longing for a healthy and happy life, however that is expressed in your life. But for me, the question really is, what, how can I be supportive for life? How can I be in service of life? And for me, this is really what we are diving deeper into in this episode, how we as a human family, as humanity, each one of us, but also together, because culture is something that is, in a way, for me, the basket for us as humans, how we are holding it together, a healthy life, and how we, yeah, how we can create that, like a healthy culture. Yeah. So with all of this said, I just, yeah, I just wish you a lot of inspiration through this conversation. And yeah, I'm curious to hear what are you taking out of this? What touched you the most? What maybe also irritated you? And yeah, if you'd like to share something around that, you can do this on YouTube, also in my Telegram channel. You can just send me an email to mail@juliatalg.org. And yeah, I just send you a lot of love and gratitude. Enjoy. Welcome, Sal. I'm so happy you're here with me. And yeah, I'm grateful that you followed my invitation to, yeah, having this conversation here for the podcast. And yeah, I'm so grateful for all that you shared already for so many, yeah, years, and for your path. And yeah, I'm, yeah, just grateful for you being here. Actually, I just have so much appreciation for you. And I just want to give you the chance to, yeah, say who you are, what brought you here, and maybe not just here, but maybe also what is your calling to be on that path that you are on, and what is it what you are sharing?
Okay. Yeah, these
Three
questions,
questions.
it's always a an interesting thing to explore, because even for myself, there's a lot of ways to speak to this. But what I can say, obviously, I'm an American. I'm from the United States. I have European ancestry, obviously Italian, being that my name is Salvatore Gencarelle. My father was Italian, basically a full-blooded Italian, but an American Italian, a third generation. So I'd be fourth generation. On my mother's side, though, I'm a big mix of European and Native American ancestry. So she has a lot of Irish, French, and then the Native American as well. So, I was born here in the United States, and I really was curious about what are the traditions of this land, not having that as part of my education. And I I felt like because I was part of this land, I needed to understand what that meant. And my parents were really supportive of that. As a matter of fact, they raised me in a teepee when I was young. They were of that generation where that was something that they were interested in as well. So they got a teepee, and I was raised in that. And yeah, we got a lot of kind of earth-based experiences from being close to the land, living in this teepee in my youth, and then kind of being called more deeply into the native traditions and the wisdoms that that holds. So yeah, my background is a mix of kind of modern education. I was a paramedic at one point for 17 years. I actually did a lot of pre-hospital work in the hospital and out of the hospital, emergency medicine. And then I was also trained in Native American healing from the Lakota Sioux tribe, particular lineage we call the Waptuka lineage. And I worked and actually was married into that lineage for, well, technically over 28 years. You could say longer than that, 35 years, because I started when I was essentially 15 years old, and I'm now past 50 years old. So I was educated in their understanding of connection, their understanding of ceremony, their understanding of healing. And I supported and worked with those ceremonies for many, many years, over almost 3 decades. So what I do now though is I take this understanding that I've accumulated with the indigenous worldview and that kind of native traditions and healing understanding, and I merge that with an understanding of kind of pre-hospital and emergency medicine, and the different education I got with that. And I created an organization called Helpers Mentoring Society, which is really focused on helping people who are called to be helpers, healers, and ceremonial facilitators for their community to get trained in the understanding that was passed to me, which is very much about supporting life, about supporting connection, about supporting cultural repair, as we call it nowadays. Fixing kind of this broken system of humanity that's disconnected from nature and really disconnected humanity from itself, and making things healthy again, repairing that, so supporting the healers to be uh, better healers, to support the healers to be more effective and have a deeper understanding. And it's my way of kind of leveraging the effect of my understanding towards people who can create change in their areas, in their locations, in their communities, in their cultures. So yeah, that's my answer in a nutshell, and hopefully you follow that well.
Yeah, wow. Thank you. Yeah, I feel it's so important to see, no, the linkage of, okay, where are you coming from in a way? Like, what is your lineage, no, your background, your lineage background? And yeah, how did your family system shape that path? And then also, yeah, yeah, you were then, yeah, mentored for so many years and how your path unfolded. Yeah, on that path with how the things came together. And I feel the piece what you shared about the, yeah, maybe the combination of healing, facilitating healing, and ceremonial work and cultural repair, I feel interesting. And maybe you can share a bit more about that. Okay, what does it mean, or why? I don't know, the question maybe might be obvious. Why does it need cultural repair? But yeah, maybe we can dig a bit deeper into that. Like, okay, what does it mean for you, and why do you feel? How is it connected to what you just shared with the lineage you're coming from? Like, I mean, the indigenous lineage you're rooted in and your work is based on.
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing. What brought me onto this journey of healing really was recognizing that the human systems are not in sync with nature, and realizing like there's a massive problem in that because the natural system is what allows us to exist. So I wouldn't necessarily have used those exact words when I was 15 when I realized these things, but it really was a moment of awakening. And it was a very potent moment in my life in that it was a decision point. Like what would come next was determined by that moment. And when I recognized that the human systems are not aligned with nature, and as a matter of fact, are in conflict with the natural world, I said, okay, what do we do about this? How can this change? And what can I do about it? And what essentially was revealed or guided or shown to me was that we need to heal. Humanity needs to heal. And what the journey of years and decades after that with the indigenous peoples I learned from and worked with and was part of the tribe, and it's still part of the tribe, um, revealed to me was that our our healing is um, it's about like a deeper aspect of our consciousness or our way of understanding ourselves in relationship to the world. The way they termed it was we as a species need a spiritual healing. But
Mm.
what does that mean, right? Because we can use these words and they sound, in my opinion, kind of poetic, and maybe they're touching upon something, but there's not like a clear definition of that in a practical way. So say, okay, well, a spiritual healing, what does that mean? And so that was the exploration through the healing work and through kind of the digesting my experiences and saying, how can this be translated to the modern experience so that it can help more people, so that people can come into this relationship with the earth and ultimately with themselves and with each other that is going to support life and the things that support life. So when we look at the spiritual healing, one of the ways to understand it is through the lens of culture and cultural repair. So understanding what is culture, right? And an indigenous worldview, what the culture is focused upon is that which connects people to themselves, to one another, and to the earth, to the natural environment, the ecosystem they live within. We could extend that too, I would say, to the unseen aspects of life or the quote unquote spiritual aspects, the ancestors, the future generations, our relationship to our own kind of connectedness to what we could term is sacred, right? That's a very, very much a part of their reality and their mindset, not as like just a religious thing that you might do once a week, but as a way of being, as a way of life. That's got to be an active component. So I put that into the mix of culture too, as far as connection, to instill those connections within people and to help develop that. So what that means is that we need to reconnect with the truth of our humanity and what that means to be a human being in this life, in this earth, and what it means to be a complete human being, meaning that you need to be connected to your heart, mind, body, and spirit. You actually need to know who you are, to have a clear sense of self, and to develop that sense of self with the support of your community and the support of your environment. And through knowing yourself, you come to know the others that are around you, the beings that are your family, that are your fellow human beings, the people that you're in relationship with, the people that are in proximity to your location, right? So we could say community, but for most people, the real sense of community isn't really there anymore. But the idea that there's other people and we need to know other people and we need to be in relationship to other people in a good way, not in an angsty, angry, fearful, you know, protective, defensive kind of way, but in a really loving, supportive way, because everybody's health and happiness is entwined. You know, like you can't just be healthy and happy, or you can't be enlightened and kind of leave the world behind. You have to be well, and your wellness depends upon everybody's wellness. And that's, again, a very indigenous worldview. Like nobody's isolated in that way. So we have to connect to one another and to understand one another. And of course, beyond that, the others of the environment, being the beings of your landscape, the trees, the plants, the rivers, the fishes, the birds, you know, the deer, the different animals, the insects that surround you, all the different ways of the of nature that you can connect and relate to. And so that is what we would call culture, when we have systems designed that support the development of those connections. So when we look at culture that indigenous people have, then we can kind of see, okay, there's a model here that shows us some very important key aspects of how that's developed. And then we compare that against the modern systems of education and kind of self-awareness and development and support and all that. And we can see there's a vast difference. And what we do in cultural repair, of course, is that we redesign this and we get people back in connection with the support to have them develop that self-awareness and to develop the relationship to others. So that's you know, that's the kind of teachings that I come from, help reveal all of that in a deeper way, and then also, of course, give us a process for that in ways to expedite that. So we just not only get like the understanding, but we get the techniques of how do you take a person who is in deep need of healing and get them into a place of self-actualization. And you could even say self-transcendence, where they're really stepping into their gifts, and their gifts are of service to their fellow human beings and the natural environment. So that's where ceremony comes in because, you know, like we can talk about it, we can figure it all out, we can design systems, but there's also this aspect where we need to heal, to purify, and to be supported in that reconnection journey. And so ceremony is a huge part of that. And that's a big part, of course, what we do with Helpers Mentoring Society, is teach people the understanding, and then also how to facilitate those ceremonies, those reconnection events. So that's where it kind of all merges together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow. Thank you for sharing that. Um, yeah, for me, it feels like, yeah, it's this how the different layers come together, no? Like it's not just, okay, how am I connected to my environment? Okay, it's so many layers. Like cultural repair is not just, I don't know what example I could say, but yeah, it has many layers. And what you said, it's also about consciousness, healing on different levels. No, it's not just, okay, I can just fix it. It's really a development, and it's an unfolding of, okay, and it's not just random. It's not random, or
Yeah, no.
like it just happens. It's like, cultural
Yeah.
repair, it's just happening. It's really, it needs me, or it needs us to really go for it and have this vision to go for it. And it's not just something that's happening or it's not happening. And we can do it or we can leave it. It's really like, okay, and how can we do it? And I feel you explained it, no? Like the different layers, how are they coming together? And it's really, yeah, it needs me completely. Not just
Yes.
a bit,
Yeah.
as you said, it's really becoming a human being again.
Yeah. And this is kind of the one of the biggest hurdles with, let's say, the average person who hasn't had exposure to these concepts, to get them over that hurdle of like this understanding to where, as you say, like it needs you and it needs your choice to engage with it for it to actually work. So what that means is you have to understand it well enough to say yes. And what we kind of we call that is like the commitment to the vision of life, or even just saying yes to life, right? So once you understand it, you're like, yeah, of course I'm committed to this. Like it's a good thing, and the goodness of it is that you're committed to walk a path, a lifestyle of the instilling and the development of health and happiness, of your potential, of who you are in support of humanity, of the environment, of your own, path in life, so that you're the most fulfilled version of yourself, that you're the most grateful version of yourself, right? And those are choices that we get to make along the way. But the trick of it is, at least in my experience so far with modern people, the very heady, intellectual driven people, is to get that understanding that this is what we're doing, and this is why we do what we do, and would you like to join in that? But so far, as soon as people understand it, they're like, absolutely. Like there hasn't really been anyone who's like, I don't want to be grateful, and no, I don't want to be healthy, and no, I don't want to be happy, and no, I don't want my family to do better, and no, I don't want the environment to be well. Like nobody ever says that. Everybody is like, yes, I want these things, I need these things, and I will do what it takes in my own way to join in. And that's great. So that's a huge part of like that transition of spiritual consciousness, or again, that consciousness shift, the healing is even just in the understanding of it. And once we understand it, then we can make choice towards health and happiness, towards healing, towards culture repair. And I really appreciate that, like that, when people link into that and they really get it and they feel it in their hearts, it fills them up. It's a beautiful transition, and the commitment
Mm.
that goes with that is really powerful.
Mm. Yeah, wow. Yeah, and I was just thinking why the term repair. Like, of course, you shared about culture, and maybe you can share something about repair in maybe in comparison to healing, or what, or how are they connected, repairing and healing, like term wise, not from the wording.
Yeah, it's interesting. So some of the terminology we use when we speak about it in a more public setting, like like the your podcast, but I imagine most of your listeners have some relationship to what you're already sharing. So it's not necessarily the general public, but when you're really speaking to the general public, the term healing, it's going to be understood in certain ways, like within certain context, and it can be a bit off-putting. It's kind of like the word sacred or the word prayer. When it's not understood within the context that we're sharing it, that people are going to automatically put it into their own understanding, which can be really divisive or contentious even. If a person had bad relationship with religion, then they're like, well, in religion, I have this really bad relationship because of the abuse and the things that I experienced. And so anything in regards to prayer or sacred is automatically rejected. And so we don't want to have that kind of response. So when we use terms like healing, then it lands in a certain way. So we have to be careful with that. And this is where terms like repair is not so off-putting. Like people can get repair and not be like, I don't like the word repair because, I have this history with that word. So cultural repair is it's a more acceptable way of saying cultural healing. Or if we really want to pull back the layers a little bit more, we could even call it spiritual healing of humanity, right? But if we say that, then we're going to hit a lot of resistance with the general public. So we say cultural repair as a way for people to, kind of open their ears a little wider and open their minds a little bit, open their hearts a little bit, because they're like, oh, I'm interested. What is this?
Mhm.
Versus closing the doors and, building the wall up really quickly. And then we have a lot of resistance. So it's a little bit of semantics for sure. It's just the way language is and the way that, especially the English language works. But when we're doing facilitation work, when we're doing healing work, when we're leaders in any fashion, then we have to be very cautious and mindful about the language we use, even the very words, down to the nuances of what that is and how it lands. So repair, I think, is a easily acceptable word, but it is really healing ultimately. It's reconnecting that which has been disconnected within the system of humanity, within the system of our understanding, within the system of our like actions, our education. So it is not just like waving a magic wand as far as like that kind of healing. It's more like we need to understand how connection works and then how to rebuild this kind of patterns of connection within ourselves and within our communities, so that there can be this way of supporting humanity that is again in relationship to themselves, to their village, to their people, and to the environment. So that's why we say cultural repair,
Mm.
versus these other kind of terms, and then how
Mhm.
how to understand this a little deeper.
Yeah, great. Cool. Thank you. Yeah. I feel that's also important for people to understand it in a deeper way, to get the linkage, how it is coming together, I feel. Yeah, and what I found also interesting in what you were sharing is this now, like people, of course they say yes to health and happiness in a way. Of course they say yes to that. And I would like to go there, and because for me what just came up and what I remembered from one of the parts in the helper's journey is this engaging with life. It's not just on a on a what do you call, like on a screen. Your life is not happening on a
Yeah.
screen. It's about saying yes to life and engaging with life. And for me, it's that actually. And I feel also for, yeah, the people listening, and then maybe because I think the most important thing, okay, so how can I engage with life? What's in a way possible? And of course, this is, of course, diverse, different, depending on where you are and so on. But still, maybe we can go there a bit of also the linkage, because I feel this is so powerful, at least from my experience with the linkage of gratitude, how this can change. And it's so easy, like having, yeah, in a way, this routine, or yeah, it's a routine and a being of gratitude. Yeah, maybe we can talk a bit about that, and also how this is connected to cultural repair, because I feel this is an, in a way, easy way to go there and to open something.
Yeah, yeah, gratitude is such a powerful medicine. It is really in many lineages and traditions and understandings around the world from indigenous people. It's like it is the medicine of humanity. It's like the way every animal and every plant has their unique medicine. And we could understand that many people, yeah, plant medicine comes from many, many plants. Like, so you take this type of plant, it helps your stomach ache, or this helps your headache, or whatever. So these plants have medicines that are really good for us. Well, we as human beings also have medicine that's really good for the world, the environment, the creation, all aspects of reality. And our medicine is understood to be our gratitude, which is it's like a very simple but incredibly profound understanding and statement. Like, this is what human beings bring into this creation, is gratitude as a medicine. So that's just to illustrate how important it is from this indigenous point of view of like, this is what we're here for. This is in many ways why we exist in a purposeful way, is by being and sharing gratitude. But let me hold on to that, because you did mention the helper's journey, and I want to let the listeners know that the helper's journey is a course that we created, and it's part of the helpers mentoring society. And I want to explain just that when we started to teach the world and people in a bigger way about these reconnection and these healing methods and understandings when it was first moving along, and it was kind of presented to people that were already in like big leadership roles within community and cultural repair. And they had really gone on really deep journeys of connection and self-discovery and understanding, which is kind of the first step. It's a big step, and it's always going to be a part of life, but it's a really big, important first step in becoming a leader and a helper, as we say sometimes say, is like knowing who you are in relationship to the creation, in relationship to yourself and to people. Okay. So over time, more people heard about it and more people got involved. And what ended up happening is like some of the people that were coming into the teachings were um, not so self-aware. They needed to go into this exploration of their connection in a deeper way. So we devised a course that would support that, where each step is looking at different aspects of human connection, you know, in regards to your relationship to life, in your regards to the natural environment and the elements and people and the natural world and the spirit world, or the unseen aspects of life, the ancestors, the future generations, and just to come to explore that in a bigger way, so you can say, oh, this is who I am. The understanding is who you are is not just who you define yourself to be, it's how the world reflects to you who you are. So if you were just in a void and the only thing in that void was you, then you could explore who you were, but it would be limited because there's nothing to reflect to you who you are. Like there's no mirror. You can't even see yourself, right? So how do you know what you look like if there's nothing that would show you what you look like? So who you are, as in the way you define yourself, is only like one half of the equation. The other half of the equation that makes you who you are is all the ways that what we call connection reflects to you who you are. So you have to have that really well developed so that you can understand who you are in regards to other people, in regards to the natural environment, in regards to the ancestors, the future generation. So you think of it like all these different mirrors, like reflecting all these different aspects of you. And then you can say, okay, here's who I am, which also gives you the information of here's how I need to improve, right? Because if you're just walking around like I'm a perfect person, but you get a lot of reflection that says, well, actually, you don't really like approach things in a good way, then you'd be like, oh, I need to change something about myself so I can develop in this bigger way. So that's just an example of like the reflections are really, really important, which thereby another way of saying that is the connections are really important. So the helper's journey is really designed to explore your connectedness, and in that help you to become a more full version, a more actualized version of who you are meant to be, which is obviously one of the things that's very much missing in the modern education experience. We need to know who we are. We need to know why we're here. We need to know what our gifts are and how to bring the vision of who we are into this world in a bigger way. Our commitment to life, our engaging with life in a bigger way. And that's such a core part of how to be a leader in this world, how to help this world, is actually to have this really well developed and to continually develop it as you journey through your life and the life stages and your transitions and the moves that you make upon the land and the changes of houses or whatever it's going to happen in your life. It helps you to continually develop who you are as an identity and as really a vision, a purposefulness in this world. So that's I just wanted to say that as a helper's
Mhm.
journey, because the very first thing we do is have you consider, what is your commitment to life, right? Are you committed to living, as you said, not just as like watching a movie play out of your own existence, but like really being like, I am here and I want to have this experience.
Mm.
And I know some of that experience will be painful and some of that will be difficult. Some of it will challenge me and help me to grow, and maybe in ways that I'm not comfortable with, but I'm going to live that fully. And I know this world is a beautiful experience, like truly in this world, in the especially the natural world, is so beautiful. It's so amazing, like it brings us to awe, right?
Mm.
And it stimulates this aspect of us that helps us to really, live fully. So hey, commit to it, right? Commit to it. Both feet in. Not don't dabble, don't put one toe in and just try it out and be like, I don't know, just jump in, jump in into life and live this experience.
Mm.
And then of course we give you a bunch of help on understanding it and how to heal and how not to like get bogged down in all the problems and da 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 da. Like people get hung up on the pain part, but the pain's actually easy to navigate, right? Once you understand a few things, you like that, it's no problem. It's actually like something else to be grateful for because the pain is helping you to grow in certain ways, right? So as long as we know how to manage it, it's not a problem. It's when it's we don't know how to manage it and it becomes like unbearable, or it becomes just a state of being, and then we would call that suffering. Suffering is not a necessary part of life. That's actually not a necessary part of life. Pain is inescapable. Suffering is something that we can manage to stay away from, because we understand how this life works, which is, again, it's a big statement, and it's something from the lineage, but it's also like, I would say a true statement. I would say that's true. And I say it's true because time and time again, as people have learned how to manage life in the ways that we have been taught and that we pass down through these teachings, people's lives get very much better, right?
Mm.
Like it just makes your life better. Like it makes you so you have tools and skills and understandings that are not available or don't seem very available in other places or other ways. So, okay, with all that being said, the gratitude piece is like an essential component of the healing journey. And it's really, again, going back to what I was saying at the beginning of this little ramble, is it is the medicine of our species. It's a medicine of who we are. And it is a very simple yet incredibly potent way of engaging with healing, whether it's cultural repair or whether it's individual journey or whether it's family dynamics or the environment, wherever you look at like what needs to be healed. If we can engage the process of healing with gratitude, it's going to make it so much better. So I'll just throw that into the mix, and yeah, I'll bounce the ball back to you if you want to dive into any one direction.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I found that interesting what you shared with the suffering. So, and I could just resonate with it, even though it might sound for some people, I don't know what you said, like not crazy is not the right term for that, but maybe like, but I'm suffering at the moment or whatever. But to say like, okay, we are not here for suffering. To understand that, I think it's a deeper understanding of what we are here for as human beings. We are not here for suffering. And this doesn't, as you said, this doesn't mean that we we always have nice experience, no? In a way, like whatever means
Mhm.
nice. But I feel this was an important point to mention what you said, like we are not here for suffering. And I think this
Yeah,
goes very deep, also in the sense of the connection with gratitude, I feel.
yeah, yeah. So one of the main ceremonies that teach us about how life functions and like what are we experiencing here in this earth reality as human beings, the ceremony that shows us that and helps us to understand it is called the sweat lodge in English, but in Lakota, in this lineage, it's oftentimes called the Inipi. And Inipi doesn't mean sweat lodge; it means life's within, or they live within, right? So it's an altar, and it's a ceremonial process that basically kind of unpacks the life experience. And this is where these ceremonies that we work with are different as compared to some of the other ceremonies of different traditions and lineages. The ones we focus on are essentially like models of experience that show us how life functions. We think of them not just as a way of healing, but as a classroom that is revealing aspects of our existence and teaching us kind of like ways to understand the experience so that we can manage it better. And one of the teachings from the Sweat Lodge or from the Inipi is that life that we are existing in as human beings is a purification. So the Sweat Lodge is a purification ceremony. And then what we understand from that is that life, this physical existence that we have as human beings, is also a purification ceremony, like a very long, lifetime purification ceremony, right? And it's like, well, what does purification mean and how does that work? And all of those different teachings that are included within the purification ceremony of the Sweat Lodge are symbolically, or you could say metaphorically, translated into understanding life. And for anyone who's been in a Sweat Lodge, it's a very beautiful and very potent, transformative, connective ceremony. And it's also not necessarily easy. It's not necessarily comfortable, right? And as a matter of fact, part of the beauty of it is the challenge even sometimes of the discomfort of the environment that's created within that ceremony that helps stimulate our heart-centered reality. It helps stimulate our our surrendering to the process. It helps stimulates our openness and our releasing of our boundaries and blockages and our barriers that stop us from connecting more fully. So we essentially soften, is a way of saying it, within that ceremony. We become more aligned to life, into the process of life, in its really fundamental form, which is the stones that have been heated in the fire, that water's put upon, that creates this steam, this heat, this atmosphere that we're kind of bathing in, right? So it's really simple, but it's the four elements. And in that, it's challenging because, yeah, it can be hot. We could even say it could be intense. It can be spiritually intense. It can be challenging in a way that if we're trying to kind of like power through it or be strong or be tough, which oftentimes maybe that's a more masculine way of approaching it, but that's what can happen. Like, oh, I'm gonna be tough in this. And of course you can't, because it's really not about being tough. It's about being soft. It's about being soft, not in a weak way, but in that kind of like truth of our humanity and the truth of our relationship to life. And so the more we try to fight that and the more we try to like take the wrong approach to it, the more difficult it becomes. And this is the metaphor within the ceremony that shows us this is what suffering is. We're taking the wrong approach, and we're pushing that wrong approach against a power of circumstance that is greater than us. So we learn, okay, I don't need to do this. I don't need to try to willpower and strength my way through the circumstance. I need to step back to my heart space and soften and connect to this space. And then suddenly, when we do that in the ceremony, it becomes really easy. It actually becomes enjoyable. It becomes like, so open-hearted and like expressive of like a deeper connection, that it's actually what was at 1 second horrible or challenging or suffering, another second it's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's joyful, it's gratitude, right? So this is the understanding of purification. Just one example of the way the purification ceremony of the sweat lodge teaches us about what's happening in life and how we can change our approaches and our understandings in life and get into this relationship to the experience so that we don't have to suffer, because we don't. That's not the point of life. If we are
Mm.
suffering, then we really need to step back and look at, like, what am I doing? What am I pushing, or like, what's my history, my wounds, my griefs, the things that are causing me to be in this relationship to life that's causing me to be in this pain that I can't escape. Let's change it. Let's
Mm.
move it in a different way. Let's try a different approach, and let's open our hearts and be grateful and see what that does, right? Let's see if we can be grateful for it. And again, it can happen in a second. It's less than a second, but literally from 1 second to the next, it can go from a really difficult experience that seems inescapable to a celebration of joy.
Mm.
That's how quick it can happen. So that's a little bit about how the ceremonies work to help us, but also recognizing that this life is a purification. It's not about suffering. It's about this deeper connectedness and really learning how to work with that deeper connectedness. And that is really, to me anyways, it changed my life. So I recognize that, and I've seen it change thousands and thousands of people's lives now. And I really, really, I have so much gratitude for that, because I really don't know what condition I would personally be in this life if I didn't have those tools and resources and experiences. I would probably be suffering too, honestly. Like, if I didn't know these things, yeah, of course, because we're not taught any different. We're not taught how not to suffer in the modern world, in the modern experience. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that. And that alone is a life changer.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, thank you. Mm. Yeah, I feel one of the things that I just remembered when you were talking now is also in those moments, which I myself remember, where I was like, what's happening here? How can I be grateful for that when you're in midst of a whatever, yeah, of something that's not easy to maybe be in. And with the comparison with the sweat lodge experiences, I can also connect to that, or it's maybe like a shorter version where you can see, okay, this is how life is working in a way, what you were telling. And yeah, and then to really recognize, and I think this is also for me at least, I mean, when everything is fine in life, I think for all of us it's easy, no, to feel grateful, to express gratitude, to say, I'm so in love and whatever. Of course, I think everybody of us knows that. But I think having this routine, at least for myself, really connecting and really making it like teeth brushing. uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like it's really a thing to just do, because I know it's really supporting my health. It supports my health and it supports life. And it's not, I need to do it because I need to do it like somebody told me, like whatever, whoever told me, but it's really, I feel it nourishes me. It really makes a difference if I'm doing it or if I'm not doing it, and I can feel the difference. And I just remembered one of your one time you talked about that, you shared that to say, yeah, if you don't know what you're grateful for, then what how would you say that? What could you be grateful for? How would you term that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, like, if you're really struggling with gratitude and you can't, I'm not grateful and I can't be grateful, then say, if you imagined yourself to be grateful, what would you imagine you would be grateful for? Right? It's a very simple question. Like, okay, I know you're not grateful, like, that's fine, but just imagine if you were grateful, what would be the thing you would be grateful for right here and now? And people are like, well, I imagine I'm grateful, then I would be grateful for whatever, right? The sky and the blue sky this morning, it's very simple. I saw the blue sky, it was beautiful. Okay, what else would you imagine you could be grateful for? Then it's like, oh, well, I'm grateful that my car's working okay. Like I've had car trouble in the past, but it's really working well. And so it's a little bit of a trick, right? But it actually does open the door for gratitude by just imagining if you were grateful, what would it be for? So it's these simple things that we can kind of like build this routine of gratitude. And absolutely anybody who does gratitude and truly engages with gratitude on a regular basis, like you shared, your life's better because of it. But it's not just your life, everybody's life is better for it. Like how nourishing is it when you receive gratitude from somebody else, right? It fills you up. It gives you a little, it's like food. Like we think about food in terms of like macro and micronutrients, right? We have to have our carbs and our fats and our protein, and people are really obsessed with this now. There's a lot of health conditions around food and diets and stuff like that. I can't have this, but I can have that, these types of things, right? So we have this real hyper awareness of what we're consuming on a physical level, but we don't think about how much we need these, let's say, spiritual aspects to feed us. And gratitude is like the best food. Like when someone is grateful for you, combined with love, because I think really like true gratitude and love are all mixed together. So when someone like offers that to you and you take it in, you're just like, oh, I feel so much better. I like, thank you. Like you feel grateful for it too, right? So it's like it grows and it develops as people share that with one another. Then it actually is like a nourishment that we truly need. And if we think about that, it's not just a nourishment that we need as people, it's also a nourishment that the earth needs, that the plants, the animals, the stone, the river, the sky, the clouds, the stars, all of it needs that. And it's not just like, spiritual in the sense, because when we're truly grateful for something, we take care of it, right? So if I'm really grateful for you, I'm going to help you to live in a better way. I'll make sure that you're not suffering, or at least do everything I can to help you. I'll make sure that your pain is managed and that your joy is celebrated in a bigger way. But so we look at the natural environment, we say, well, the earth is suffering, nature is suffering, people are destroying the earth, environment, climate change, these types of things. If we really boiled that all the way down to like what is at the core of this problem, we would find people are not grateful for the world that we live in. People aren't grateful to the rivers and what they provide, and the fish, and that they have a life, and that they swim in the waters and clean the waters and give us something to eat. And you know the gratitude is what makes it so that we live in a coherent way with the rest of this creation, people and ourselves and the earth, right? So this gratitude principle is way, way bigger than just I feel happy and I'm grateful. That's the most superficial version of it. And it's a great and beautiful version too, right? Like, no, not to discount that. Like that's great that we get to feel better about life, but as it's applied towards action, as it is applied towards like taking responsibility and ownership in caretaking and caregiving, it really is the motivation at the center of that action is our gratitude for those things. So when we appreciate something, we take care of it. When we truly love it and we're grateful for it, we absolutely will change our relationship of behavior towards whatever that is. So it's a really, really important thing. And yes, we might have to start with imagining that we're grateful. That may be where it has to start. But that's totally great because at least we're starting to imagine what are we or could we be grateful for? And that's going to move us more and more and more into that healing pathway of gratitude, which is healing for all things.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I feel I don't have so many words left for that because I feel it just you boiled it down to the essence of what's important. And I hope also for people who listened, yeah, that they can take something out of it to really feel like in a way, like I feel the journey we just made was from, okay, kind of the bigger vision. Okay, cultural repair is in a way like big, no? How can I change something in a way? But then to see, okay, of course, these are layers, no? And I'm part of the layers. I'm connected to the different layers. We all are connected to the different layers. And how, and I feel for me at least, it got clearer again, the fuel in a way. Maybe it's a good word, I'm not sure. It just came to me. The fuel in a way is a gratitude because it nourishes the different layers. It goes everywhere and it helps to connect the different layers. So I feel it just came for me at least together in a beautiful way. So okay, yeah, I can I'm doing a lot when I'm just sharing my gratitude and it nourishes life.
Yep.
Like you said, it's love. It's really love, giving love for life.
Yeah. And that's, again, like so many wisdoms. If we really look at like the truths of these wisdoms of the indigenous, these traditions and these understandings that pass down for, millennia, right? It's like that endured through all of these different circumstances that peoples for, at least 200,000 years, even a million years, the kind of timeline of, let's say, Homo sapiens has expanded and expanded and expanded. And so this is what has kept us in a good relationship to the earth, to life, to one another for a long, long time. And this is what we essentially need to get back to, because the truth of it is it still is as important as it was for our ancestors 200,000 years ago as it is for us here right now with computer screens and Zoom calls and cameras and technology and all these other things that we have. It's still like an inescapable truth of how this works, that we need gratitude to sustain this, to be in good relationship to it, and to take the right actions so that we really tend this well and make sure that the future generations can also have this experience.
Mm.
So it's very, very simple. And when it really is understood in a fuller way, it's incredibly profound.
Mhm. Mm.
So everybody be grateful. Yay.
Yay!
Yes.
Yeah, and I just have an impulse for whoever listened. Our conversation, yeah, to just feel into your body and take a moment for you to feel it really. What are you grateful for at the moment? And you can just do it for yourself, or you can take it to somebody, to whoever you feel called to, if a human being, a plant, the water, a stone, the mountains, the sea, whoever you feel called to, and just express your gratitude for whatever you are grateful for. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
already feel it. I feel the ripple of that already. And we all do. We're all nourished by, even one person doing that somewhere on the other side of the world. Somehow it reaches us. So it's, yeah, it is a fuel of connection.
Hmm. Hmm. Great. Yeah, I just want to mention we're gonna share the link for the Helpers Mentoring Society, whoever feels the call to go there to see what's happening there, and also, of course, for the course for the Helpers Journey. I guess it's starting in January, at the end of January again, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah, and it's technically a year-long course. It starts at the end of January, runs all the way to the end of November. There's a little break, but really there's so much material. It's a lifetime journey, as we say. So it's really, Yeah, it's really something that we welcome anybody, any background, any calling that you have around self-exploration in regards to more connection in life. It is a really important step in the journey. And for us, of course, it leads to what we call the advanced courses, which are more about leadership and facilitation and really supporting others to go on connection journeys. But the helper's journey is the doorway to that. So just to know there's actually a big pathway, but that's the first step on the pathway for those who are also maybe interested in that. Um, yeah, you're welcome to check that out. Love to
Mm.
see you in this coming year.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, so thank you so much for for what you shared, for what came through you and all that stand behind you and make it possible your family, your ancestors, the lineage you're connected to, and all the wisdom that came to you and now to us and for life and just for sharing that and for taking the time to be here. And I send my gratitude, my ripple of gratitude to you and to the land you're on and to all what you're doing, that it also be nourished by that, what we shared.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yep. And thank you. And it definitely works. And this back to you and to all the listeners, to you, the people that are doing this for you, facilitating this to give the opportunity for more people to connect in this way, even just to hear these concepts and to, share a little bit of gratitude, and that's that. Try it, just see what happens. And then for the ancestors, your ancestors, the land you're upon, and for all that supports and connects to you and makes this possible. So, yeah, as we say in Lakota, which is the lineage that I'm from, Wopila, which means total
Mm.
gratitude to you, Wopila.
Mm. Yeah, Vopila.